Good evening, everyone. We will wait for 5 more minutes so that all the participants can join.
Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Bijoy Jose. I am the chair of Kerala chapter for Ieee Council for RFID this year. I welcome you all to the talk with Mr. T.S. Rangarajan, VP Ieee RFID Council. I just wanted to give you a brief about RFID Council in general. We have been active for the past 2 years. We have been conducting a couple of events and we are trying to promote it even more this year. We'll have a suite of activities this year, and we have had already an info session last week where we sort of talked about the origin of RFID Council at Kerala. And going forward, we want to network with the Indian chapters of RFID Council, R10 and beyond. There are educational and other challenges put forth by our RFID Council, and we want to get involved in most of them. This year, one major change that happened was Rangarajan sir connecting all the RFID chapter leaders together. Now we are in touch with different chapters across India and R10. And when I thought about let's have somebody talk about RFID Council and the importance of RFID solutions in industry, I thought, okay, he's the natural choice, and he readily agreed to do this with us. And he's been someone who's in the industry and has been working in IEEE also immensely. And I think it will be a very good start for us with the activities of the current Exicon. So with that introduction, let me welcome Mr. T.S. Rangarajan, sir, to the meeting. Sir. Sir, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry.
Welcome, sir, to the event.
Yeah, sure.
We have had a good response for all the 2 activities that we have so far done, and we have something more in store which will be announced later today after this talk by the secretary. I want to appreciate people who have shown curiosity in RFID Council, and our number is growing this year, and we have set a target for membership count also, and that was probably communicated in the previous info session for MDCs. With this, let me hand it over to our Exicom member for a formal introduction and welcome for our speaker, Mr. T.S. Rangarajan. Over to you. Alia, are you there? You are still muted. Just give us a second.
I hope I'm audible to everyone. Am I audible?
Yes.
Ali, I don't think we can hear you.
I can hear you.
Yes, Alia, you are audible.
Am I audible to everyone? Can someone send me a message? I can't seem to hear.
Okay, I think I can take over. I hope I'm audible.
Hello everyone,
let
and
me
welcome
give
to today's session.
Quick introduction.
I am Alia
Resonance,
Shiraz, and it's my pleasure to introduce our
he's
guest
from Bangalore.
Mr. Rangarajan,
BE
who
in
is the
Mechanical
Vice President of
Engineering
IEEE Council for RFID
from
2020.
Training Institute for Productivity and
excuse me.
Industrial Engineering,
Sir,
New Delhi in 1985.
Alia, you can stop.
He joined Ashok Leyland initially, and I know that he was involved with TCS for quite a bit. He's been a volunteer with IEEE for 18 years. He's the VP right now for RFID Council for RFID in 2021, and the Associate VP in the previous year. He has served different roles in RFID and beyond in IEEE, and he has been a general chair of IEEE R10 Humanitarian Technology Conference, and is the recipient of Lifetime Achievement Award for section chairs from RFID India Council in 2019. Today, he'll be speaking about RFID solutions for the industry. With that introduction, let me welcome Mr. T.S. Rangarajan, sir, for the address to the crowd. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Bijoy, and thank you, everybody. Let me start my presentation. Can you see my presentation now?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you for this opportunity. What I have done is I have put together the experience that I had running RFID projects while in TCS. Most of these, there were about 50 odd projects that we did for various clients across the globe. And when Bijoy said that he wanted somebody to speak about the solutions for business or solutions for industry, it was not very difficult for me to put this presentation together. But my experience has been that whenever someone talks about RFID, or if I talk about RFID to someone, usually people have heard about RFID, but they don't know what it is all about. They don't know how it works, what is the technology behind, and so on. So even when we make a presentation on industry, people want to know about the technology first. I had this doubt. That is why I requested Bijoy to run a survey. And this is how the survey results show. You know? So I was sort of vindicated when I felt that almost the majority of the people felt that they wanted to know both about technology and applications. So therefore, I have modified my presentation to include some technology briefly, so that you understand how this technology is benefiting the business or the industry in a number of ways. In that survey, I had a few questions that people asked me. Said, how do you start an experiment in the field of RFID if we don't know programming? Can RFID be used with analog electronics, cloning, and so on? I will be answering these questions, and you are free to think of anything else that you want to know during the question and answer sessions. So let's start with the beginning. Radio frequency is typically a spectrum of extreme high frequency, super high frequency, ultra high frequency, very high frequency, medium frequency, low frequency. This is the spectrum in the electromagnetic spectrum that we have, beyond which we have the infrared, the visible range, the ultraviolet, and the optical spectrum extends to X-rays, gamma rays, and cosmic rays. So spectrum is the one which is actually driving radio frequency. And as you know, spectrum is like real estate. It is very short in supply. There is a lot of demand now as communication increases. In India, we have a wireless planning council, commission or council under the Department of Communications. They allot the frequencies for various applications. So now you must have seen about 5G spectrum allocation. Earlier there was 4G, 3G, 2G, and all that. So there is a lot of fight for spectrum from various applications. Mostly this Wireless Planning Commission finds all the mobile operators are constantly thronging the Wireless Planning Commission. They have a big union or association. They get all their requirements pushed. So we struggled to get RFID allocation, spectrum allocation from the Wireless Planning Commission. So sometime around 2007 or 8, we managed to get the 865 megahertz to 867 megahertz frequency spectrum allocated for RFID use in passive tags. So this is where we stand right now. Beyond that, they have not done anything for RFID so far. And then some of the applications, and this was allocated when RFID is pretty new in India. There was only talk about RFID. But now we have a few important applications. So in terms of radio frequency usage, one of the first things that most of you might be aware of is when you go to all these malls and you go to the Lifestyle and Pantaloons and Big Bazaar and other places, you would have noticed a reader at the exit gate of the mall, of that particular shop. And those readers are tall tower type of readers. And what they do is, if you are buying an apparel, they will be affixing a tag in the apparel. In your checkout counter, they will remove the tag. But in case you have not removed the tag, or if somebody is stealing that item and he goes out of that reader, the reader will make a lot of noise. So the guard will know that somebody is stealing something from this shop. Those tags were the first ones which came into being, and they were called the sensormatic tags. Sometime around the same time or slightly earlier, we used the 13.5 megahertz automatic identification technology for very close, 2.5 inch is the reading distance for that tag. And that is what we wear in our ID tags now. These ID tags themselves, they came around 12 or 13 years ago. Before that, we didn't have these tags. But once these tags became available and 13.56 megahertz was allocated, because we did not require any license to use. So people were having these hard-coded tags available for identification of people. So you use that to enter your offices now. So these are the initial applications that we had in RFID. Now, of course, you have another very interesting thing that is going on is FASTag. All the toll gates, when you move, you use a FASTag, which is also an RFID application. Then, of course, there are boom shutters for car garages and so many things. So these are the initial applications that that are available in India today for you to see. The next one that you are going to see is a massive application of RFID in railways. So railways are going to use, or they have already specified, tested, and putting it to use for tracking all their coaches. So today, if you see the number of trains that run, the coaches which are available, very often railways finds it very difficult to track these coaches. So they have decided that they're going to use RFID for those coaches. And gradually there will be use of RFID in many ways. So this is something that I wanted to know. How does it work? So what RFID does, it identifies individual items like SKUs. SKU is a stock keeping unit. Inside a retail store, you will have the stock of various categories of items. Each of those items will be using an RFID tag, and it identifies that individual item based on what is what that item data is required for identification. Before RFID came into being, we were having barcode. Even now we have barcode. In most of the cases, you will find all the packaged goods having a barcode. And then in the past about 15 years, when mobile technologies improved dramatically, you had so many apps and so much of power and capability being made available on the smartphone. The RFIDs, some of the functionalities of the RFID has moved to the smartphone. So earlier we used to have standalone readers for RFID, handheld readers. Those handheld readers are now available as attachments to the mobile. And you have a lot of application and software which is available for using along with those readers. Then you had RFID tags, which are paper-thin labels consisting of an integrated chip, an integrated antenna, and two varieties, broad varieties of tags, which are passive tags and active tags. The difference being that a passive tag gets its energy from the reader, whereas an active tag has a battery as a power source. With active tags, you can have a longer distance of reading, something like, I think, 150 meters or so, you can read with active tags. So RFID readers can read many types of tags. There is no need for a line of sight. There is anti-collision prevention interference and a lot of engineering has gone into the design of these tags. One of the questions that somebody has asked about cloning. So there is a very well-defined encryption protocol available for tags. The only problem is that if you want to use RFID tags at a unit level, the price has to be very less. People can't afford to pay. Earlier the tags used to come for $1 or so when you were buying this. But if the price of the product is lesser than $1, then putting a dollar tag makes no sense. So there is an engineering demand for increasing functionality in the tags, while at the same time reducing the price of the tags. And therefore, if you have a foundry, chip foundry, you need millions and zillions of tags to be produced for economy considerations. So there is a challenge of adoption also for RFID. And there are many engineering challenges available for RFID right now. Some of them have been addressed, but in the past decade, what I would say is plenty of competing technologies have come to the fore. And therefore, while RFID is an integral part of the complete technology stack for an IoT application, there are competing technologies on the identification aspect, such as the near field communications, NFC, or you have 2D barcodes. You have, the payment systems which use tags without any identification, but doing some other processes. So plenty of solutions have been created for specific usages. And I think in future, what we will see is there is a lot of advance happening even in the way the tags are used, or the way the whole process of identification, or the leveraging the smartness of the technology is concerned. Plenty of pathways are available for solution design or solution architecting, and plenty of options are also available. So as a consultant, while I was in TCS looking after RFID, we were really not sort of wedded to RFID. We were more wedded to the customer's problem and what is the technology which will best suit the customer's requirement is how we were seeing. And we felt that at that time, RFIDs were probably ahead of the other technologies, but I would not say the same thing right now. I would like to talk about solutions which are customer friendly or particular use case friendly, and we design solutions based on the technologies that are available. Having said that, I think RFID is again coming back to prominence because of the ubiquitous nature of the radio frequency and the ubiquitous nature of the usage of spectrum for communication and identification. So there are different types of readers also, handheld, stationary, and so on. But typically, if you want to understand how this technology works, is that you have, let's say there is a, if you take the number 2 here, you have a box which has got a tag which is moving in a conveyor belt, and when it moves and comes near a reader, the antenna of a reader, the reader broadcasts a signal through the antenna, and the antenna responds back. As I said, if it is a passive tag, it doesn't require a battery, so it gets charged with that very small amount of power that comes from the antenna, and then sends back a signal saying, this is my identity. The reader then identifies that object and sends that data to the laptop or computer that is going to process that data. That is all. As far as the tag is concerned, it has a chip and it has a copper coil antenna which is encased in a polythene media. That's all the test chip. You can imagine that once these tags are made, they are practically used in every economic sector, from airlines to food processing to engineering to retail to healthcare. Everywhere they are used now. We will see those applications shortly. So this is the simple thing. The tag receives the signal from the antenna, sends back its identification information. The antenna then transports that information or communicates it to the reader. The reader sends it to the machine. The big advantage is that earlier we had a challenge of ensuring that this whole physical process of connecting a physical object to a digital platform through a protocol, that was a challenge because there were a lot of environmental issues, the readers not reading, the tags not working, and so on and so forth. So many problems or many projects that we did were having those challenges to be fixed. Now, more or less, many of these things have been overcome. And now the big advantage is the data that comes from the tag. So we are now having something like, if you talk about a structured data which is available to you in a big data format, in a huge amount of data that comes, and how this data is being used by the industry or the business, that is the benefit for the business. What they do with that data and how quickly they can process it and use it for various purposes is what we will discuss as part of this business. So this is the bird's eye view. These are the different types of tags that we use. The low frequency tag is 125 kilohertz tag. The medium frequency is 13.56 megahertz tags. The ultra high frequency tags are between 900 to 928 megahertz. Then you also have a 2.5 gigahertz tags, and you also have UWB, ultra wideband tags. So all these manufacturers, they have developed these tags for different kinds of uses. So if you look at a tag, the way they are classified is, one is classification based on frequency. Second is power source, which is active, passive, and semi-passive. Third is memory type, read only, read and write, write once, read many times. And then the standards. So this is very important. The standard part is very important. Even our council is now part of the Standards Association of IEEE. And we are working on one project for creating a standardized glossary for RFID, which can be used by all the users. So you have ISO, you have GTAG, and EPC Global. EPC Global is now called GS1. They are the ones who are developing standards for various verticals. So there are standards like, antenna footprint, tag data standards, air interface protocol, and so on and so forth. So many of these standards are technical standards and industry level standards are available from all these organizations. So we discussed. I'll quickly move through because there is a lot of thing that I want to cover in the application. So RFID readers provide serial port interface, host-initiated request response protocol. Basic commands include reading a block, writing a block, and locking. Advanced readers provide serial and Ethernet interface. All these blah, blah, blah. These are all standard engineering technology, terminology used. This is the type of readers that you have, readers and antenna. So the ones which are the gate readers, you must have seen it in these malls. Some of them are handheld readers, and then I told you about the attachment to a mobile smartphone, also available as a reader now. So they are all the readability and the range depends on the design that we want to bring, and there is a lot of improvement in these readers now. So in my case, how I got into RFID is an interesting thing that I wanted to tell you. I was doing a project for a very large number 2 retailer in the US. That was Target Corporation, actually. And this was about 20 years ago. And at that time, there was a auto ID center in MIT, Boston, who were actually trying to experiment with RFID as an industrial scale. Target was one of the sponsors of the project in MIT. And since we were the software application support for Target, we got involved in the RFID testing at the distribution centers. So as I learned more and more about the technology through that project, we were involved in testing their hardware, reporting application development at stores, the distribution centers and head office, evaluating middleware. Okay, in those days, these things were very important because we had the technology stack was not integrated. They were all fragmented, and we had to really test and see how each one of them works together. So they were using an UHF passive tags, readers and tags, and edge level middleware. This is how I got involved in RFID. And then we came back and we started to use this technology for other clients. One of the first ones was, this was for a document tracking application for a defense division. I'm not at liberty to talk about it. But basically what they said was there were very secret documents, defense documents, which were kept in a safe, a locked safe. And they wanted to know how often these files were being removed and taken out from that place, and whether there was they could reconcile the usage of the files with the actual work, etc. There was some concern about it, so they wanted to see how we can use these tags for that. So we did a small project there, where the scope was to track the file and the document. We used a handheld reader integrated to a PDA. In those days, we didn't have a mobile. Automated document inventory and tracking application synchronized with desktop the document management application. Then we had the benefits were improved document inventory visibility, reduction in misplaced documents, reduced effort in tracking classified documents. We used high frequency RFID tags from TI, Texas Instruments. And we used a handheld RFID reader. This was one of the first applications that we worked on. Now here I want to tell you something else, that Hitachi had come up with a new chip in those days. And the Mu chip and Hitachi, we were involved in a discussion with McGraw-Hill Printing and Publication, where McGraw-Hill wanted to experiment in using a chip for each page of a book that they print. So they wanted to know that people are not really tearing off the pages, or they can track each page of a book to make sure that the book is full and all that. And then subsequently, the same type of application was considered. Even there was a rumor recently that the 2000 rupee note has a Mu chip embedded in it, so that we can track the number of whether the 2000 rupee note is fake or genuine and so on. But such things are now available. We can actually, and we did a project for Hyderabad, I think, University of Hyderabad, where the certificates were having embedded chips to ensure the authenticity of the certificate issued by the university. So these are all document-related applications. There are two major lines of applications that people use with RFID. One is asset tracking, and the other one is inventory management. Asset tracking is very interesting. Every asset that a company has, I mean, you can use it even at home. So you can actually embed a tag on each asset, and you can make sure that you are able to take an inventory of that asset, and you know exactly when this asset came into being or it was purchased, and you can link it with a lot of information for that asset. So asset tracking was something, and usually what happens is every company is supposed to do a physical verification of assets and inventory before 31st March or when they close their inventory. For that, this becomes very useful because it used to take a lot of time to do the physical inventory because when it was done manually. But when you have an RFID-based tracking system, it's a breeze. You can do it anytime you want. So this is a project that we did for GE in Bangalore. They were medical equipment manufacturers. They had a pain area that they had inaccurate inventory records, data inconsistencies between their SAP solution and the actual bin level status. This is the major pain area that we addressed in many of the projects, that they were never able to reconcile their book inventory and the physical inventory. There's always a problem, not because things were being stolen or something, but they were probably not recorded properly. Or, sometimes in the case of one project in UK, Virgin Atlantic, what they did was their people were putting spare parts in wrong bins. So you find that the book says that so many items of this washer is available in the stock, but in actual practice, it will not be there. So you can talk about this inventory, let's say, in a pharmacy store or even in a Kirana store and so many places. Everywhere it's the same kind of problem that they have. Pain area is similar. Okay, so I think I'm running short of time. So I'll quickly move through this. This is one asset-based, inventory-based, then product authentication. This is a computer peripheral manufacturer in Chennai who was having a problem that their printer heads were getting replaced, and there were a lot of duplicate printer heads being sold in the market. So he wanted to make sure that their printer head is equipped with an RFID tag so that it can be authenticated as genuine. This is the Virgin Atlantic thing that I talked about, MRO operations. This is another interesting one, which is, I hope you're able to see my screen, right? Excuse me. Can you see the screens that I'm quickly going through?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is a clinical trial organization. So this is a clinical trial company based out of Switzerland. So they get a sample of, sputum or something or blood from their clinical trial sites. And what they do is they have to be processed within 48 hours. So they have a system that, they get a mother sample, which are then aliquoted into daughter samples, split into daughter samples. And then these daughter samples go through a different process of investigation. And then ultimately all that data has to be collated together for taking an inference. If you want to do this kind of thing, RFID is very useful because it may ensures that the sample, mother sample and the daughter samples are matched. The data is from the same source. None of these, pipettes and test tubes are lost, etc., etc. And all done in a very short time. So, and the people, the sponsors want to have a complete control because clinical trial is a very sensitive area. So they want to make sure that they have end-to-end visibility of the sample. And the long trial times, they also take time for this thing. And there is long lead times for patients, error reduction, etc., etc. So when I see this, and I see another application, which I think this cold chain. So these are two things which are very important, in today's context, when we are all going through COVID, and we have to ensure that, everybody's sample is correct, everybody's test results are accurate, and they are scaled up in such a way that nothing gets lost, etc. In all these cases, identification becomes extremely important, and ensuring the authenticity of those objects, whether it is an asset or an inventory or a sample or everything. So there are a lot of these things which are relevant for in today's situation. So this is, broadly I wanted to tell you, but I want to give you two examples. I think I will close with that. So the point is that most of these projects that we did, we were all busy with the engineering solution of the solution. But the real advantage to the client comes when they are able to use this information in their business. So I want to give you two examples of the use of this information in business. So for example, let's take retail. I'll talk about retail in both these examples. Retail was one of the domains that where I did many projects. So let us take the example of the corner shop that we have today. The corner shop is, it has been in existence for 5,000 years. The malls, the discount stores and the, big bazaars, Reliance Fresh, all these things, they have come only recently. So what is the difference between both? The corner shop, which has been in existence for 5,000 years, why was it not able to grow? And how is it that these malls, these Reliance Fresh, etc., they are able to open stores, hundreds of stores every day. They are able to close hundreds of stores every day. And, there is so much activity they are able to do. The fundamental difference, there is it's a mathematical problem. If you take the Kirana store guy, if you see all the functions, he opens his shop at 6 o'clock in the morning and closes it at 10 o'clock in the night. He will have one, plank of wood in the front. You won't be allowed to enter his shop. Okay? Look at how he operates. He will take your order. He will go and weigh the item. He will pack it. He will charge you, and then he will account. All these functions inside a shop are done by one person. That one person is indispensable. It can be the owner of the shop or his wife. He will not trust anybody else. So these two people run that shop. Okay? Now, this is if you mathematically want to define this whole setup, it's an integration of all functions. What the Reliance Fresh and Walmart and other people are doing is they have used IT to integrate, and they are able to differentiate the functions. So there is a different storekeeper, there is a different cashier, there is a different category manager, there is a different distribution center manager. So these functions have been differentiated, and because they have been differentiated, it is possible to scale them. So if you take a category manager, let us say for jeans, that category manager will be ordering jeans, he will be sourcing the supply, he will be deciding the design, he will be deciding the vendor, etc., etc. All the things related to the jeans, he will do for all the stores of that organization, thousands of stores. So therefore, once you are able to differentiate, then you can scale things. So the fundamental requirement for this model is an underlying IT system, which then integrates all these functions as a part of a software. And once you have made the connection between you can call it a digital twin, but you have made the connection between the digital and the physical, you are able to separate the data and the operation. You are able to have information available to people who are empowered to make the decisions for closing and opening stores. Whereas if you see this corner shop guy, because he has integrated all the functions to himself, he is unable to scale. He cannot open more stores. Even if he trusts somebody, they will not be sustainable for him. So this is one example I thought I will give it for your consideration to understand that in most of these cases, the evolution of business is going along very logical, scientific, or mathematical way. Okay. The next example I want to give you is actually happened in Tokyo. It was a 7-Eleven stores in Tokyo. And 7-Eleven is a very big chain throughout the world. So the store guy, the guy who was operating the store, suddenly found that his sales was picking up, and his sales was noticed by the principals in New York. They noticed in the weekly sales and the fortnightly sales and monthly sales figures that this particular store had suddenly jumped to 400%, of its capacity. And they were very curious as to what was going on there. How come this was? So the entire top brass, they landed in that store to find out what was going on in that store. So this guy, this smart store owner, what he was doing was, he was trying to figure out which of his categories was moving fast. And one day he realized the categories which were moving fast were notebooks, pencils, pens, erasers, sharpeners, water bottle, school bag. And he realized that his store is close to either one or two big schools. And candies, most of his clients were students. Okay? They were in great demand with all these things. So what he did was that he started to stock more and more of the items which students will buy, okay, instead of other people. So once he brought more variety, more quantity, etc., the sales started to pick up. Okay? And once the momentum happened, he did something quite unbelievable. You know what he did? He sacked his store staff and he appointed some students on part-time basis to run the store. The students were able to identify requirements of their fellow students, friends, in a very different way. They were able to find new products, new categories. So today you can see this very, very clearly. I mean, I'm seeing it that, generation after generation, the choice and what goes viral is quite different from each generation. So once he put some new students, they brought totally new categories. He could not have done it by himself, or his salespeople, older salespeople would never have imagined to stock such items. And that is why he was able to, leapfrog in his growth. And that was a huge learning for 7-Eleven after that. You can actually see these kinds of inferences coming out of the data that they gather through the sales, and for which RFID was the main driver. I just want to quickly move through the next. Somebody asked me about what is the Council of RFID, and what is the benefit for this. So Council of RFID was started in 2007, when the first RFID conference was jointly held with RFID Journal Live and RFID Expo Live. After that, there was a technical committee. This is a process of IEEE where we first start a technical committee, then we start a journal, transaction journal or something, and then we start slowly building up the whole thing. So you can actually see these things in the technical activity board approval of a technical committee into a council that was done in 2015. We have a strategic plan that we need to fulfill. We're struggling to do that, but we became the 46th Society or Council within TAB. We have this our website. You can check all that things. And basically, as I said, it's the last mile connection between physical and digital world, and it's the essential component of IoT, digital twin, smartphone. So we are actually quite well placed in terms of a technology in the entire tech stack for IoT, because IoT came much later. But then there are a lot of improvements that are possible in this whole thing, and the improvements are possible as we, IEEE is the standard owner for 802.N, 802.11ax, and all that, the entire 802 series. And today there is a fight between 5G and Wi-Fi. And the Wi-Fi is picking up because everybody is working from home. So if you really see the whole concept of communication, the use of radio frequency, etc., is going to grow tremendously. And we will have a big role to play because there are a lot of technical challenges which we have to fix. So what is the benefit? What do we offer? We offer a free membership for all IEEE members, free RFID affiliation. We want more and more chapters to be open. We want more and more awareness for people, because all the industry sectors we have applications with RFID. We have an open access journal of RFID. We run 2 annual conferences. One conference which is a regular RFID conference, another is RFID theory and application. This year's RFID theory and application is being held in Delhi. It's actually a virtual conference, but our Delhi chapter is hosting it. And we are looking for some very good papers. In fact, what I want to very specifically tell you, because I've been associated with the IEEE for a long time, I think the quality of papers is extremely important. We don't want large quantity of paper, but we want some really original work which happens based on, some of the challenges that are very specific to our requirements need to be addressed by the academia. So we're looking for very quality papers. We're looking for support from sponsors and so on. Right now, we have 10 chapters spread across Asia, Pacific, Middle East, Europe, etc. We are going to have distinguished lectures. We have identified many of them from eminent speakers. We'll be bringing them to you, and you will greatly benefit from the kind of inputs that IEEE can offer. So we have synergies with everything. So let me tell you, one of the latest applications is called Farm to Plate. A company called Paramount Solutions from Georgia has developed an RFID application using blockchain. So it is able to give you fresh food from farm to plate, and it's able to track everything with that. And there are there is so much here. The one project we did in Chicago was where we realized that your vegetables, some of them are exogenous and some of them are endogenous. If you keep an exogenous and endogenous vegetable together, their shelf life reduces. These kinds of insights you can get when you use these technologies. When RFID and sensors are used, many insights you will get in the business, which we can use to improve our solutions. So what is the benefit? You can become an affiliate of CRFID. It's free. You can start a chapter, publish your paper, attend the conferences, persuade other societies to join RFID in synergistic research. That is completely infinite possibility to work jointly with other societies. And we need, more and more involvement. There is no end for that. So this is one question that was asked of me in the survey, and there's one more question about. As I said, there are plenty of experiments you can start. Well, I don't know programming language. I don't know how to address that. I think nowadays they are teaching programming in the middle school. So programming has become part of your language course types. It's something that you really have to work with it. If you don't know programming, better learn it. Plenty of material available to you for you to learn. Of course, RFID technology experimentation can be done with analog devices also. There is a lot of stuff in that. Now, cloning. Okay, this is an interesting question. So in the initial stages, people were not worried about cloning because the technologies was very new. Okay, but now that people have become really bad, okay, when you see social media being misused, every technology is open for misuse. But then there is a technical solution for that also. For cloning, the technical solution is encryption. So if you must have noticed about the whole controversy on WhatsApp. There also the solution is encryption. So in cloning also there is encryption that is going to be used. But the problem again, as I said, every new function that you want a gain of function in that particular piece. You have to pay for it. It costs. And therefore the cost of that product increases. If you want smaller products where cloning is not necessary, you may still not use tags which are not encrypted. But if you want expensive items, etc., you can use encryption. Pinless payment, how secure is pinless payments? They are pretty secure. There is, of course, there are some challenges about people reading your, card when you are putting it in a back pocket, etc. But then I think those things are possible, but not feasible in the long run. Some of these hacks are such that they are not sustainable. It makes no sense for people to sustain those things. We were doing a project on animal tracking. We did an animal tracking project. We actually injected a tag into a cow to see what all we can do with it. So there was a hue and cry about privacy, hue and cry about secrecy. And there are such challenges are also there. But I think there are solutions available. Only thing is they'll add to the cost. How to learn about RFID technology? Today, I don't think anybody needs to be told about this. There's plenty of online material available for you to read. And what I'm seeing is people are using Raspberry Pi and Arduino boards and using sensors and using RFID to develop a solution for anything specifically, end to end. So plenty of such stuff is available for you to do. Of course, I discussed about real activities, benefits of RFID. So with that, I'll close because Biju wanted me to close it early. I'm open for any other questions if you have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It was a wonderful and informative session. Guys, if you have any questions, please ask now. Sir, Sir, there's a question in the chat from Rishi Manoj. He's asking, what is NFC? What is the difference between NFC and RFID?
Okay. So in RFID, it is a a digital connect. So you just have one shot of the identification data, which is read and then passed on. In near field communication, it's like a continuous communication, like how we are talking. So near field communication is used where you want to ensure that you are able to what do you call you are able to so that the use case is different. That's what I would say for near field communication. Next.
Sir, there's a question. Sir, Manu MJ is asking, now the credit cards, debit cards are using RFID. Sir, can you please mention about the security of RFID and can anybody hack or manipulate RFID?
Well, I think people are hacking servers. People are hacking so many things. Recently there was a gas pipeline which was hacked in Alaska. Last year there was a hack of the electricity board in Mumbai. There was a power outage. There are so many things which are going on as far as hacking is concerned. In fact, people are offering you courses on how to hack, and the hackers come in the way hackers are admitted into institutions is when they show something that the client has never seen. Okay? So I don't want to really claim that things cannot be hacked. But what I want to say is that the hacking has, hacking has two purposes. One is to demonstrate what you can do. Okay? Second is to benefit from hacking. So unless any hack is beneficial to the person in terms of making money or looting a bank or whatever, I don't know how sustainable that will be. But hacks are happening and hacks are being fixed, and hacks can happen because of multiple things, not just because of the technology. It's also the process that people are using. For example, earlier we used to have only a user ID and password. Then we had a CAPTCHA. Then we had I am not a robo. Then we had two-factor authentication. Then we had pins, and so on and so forth. We are also changing the processes and making it more and more difficult for people to hack, or more and more difficult for things to happen in a large scale. But there is a challenge. That challenge has to be, and one is hacking is illegal. Basically, anybody caught hacking will undergo severe punishment. So if you ask me, what about other crimes? Hacking is just like any other crime.
Sir, Vignesh Kailash is asking, can Faraday cages prevent the manipulation of RFID cards?
They can, but the problem will be that again, when you want to add on certain new technology or features or functions, it costs money. It costs money. There has to be an infrastructure to maintain it. There's an infrastructure to manage it. And the use case, see, coming from the industry, we are always very conscious about the cost. So anything that we want to do, we will want to understand what is the cost of doing that. What is the cost for the person who is disrupting it? What is the cost for the person who has to provision for it? So this is the kind of trade-off that we keep looking at. I don't know. I mean, if Faraday cages can prevent the manipulation of RFID cards, somebody will have to do a feasibility of that.
Sir, Tejas P. Aditya is asking, is it possible for someone to create a duplicate debit card by reading our cards?
So that is cloning. So that's what the first question they said. Yes, you can do a duplicate debit card by reading your cards, but if my card is encrypted, you can do nothing about it. You can keep a duplicate card, but it won't function. It won't work. In fact, people have tried even very simple ways to break in, like the Europe, the Russian and Serbian people. They were caught even in Chennai. What they have got is they have got a exact replica of the ATM card holder. So they go and fix it. They connect it. When somebody inserts a card, it reads the PIN of the card and other data, and then these guys can go and empty that debit card. So there are such hardware type of things people try to do. And therefore, one of the places where the security and these things are very, very critical are the banks and the dispensing machines, ATMs. So now what people are doing, first they said credit cards, then they said debit cards, and now we are talking about phone pay and Paytm, and we don't even need anything. We just need a 2D barcode for us to pay. So things are also moving in that direction, the way that people can't manipulate. But then again, these are things which have to be very carefully evaluated as to what kind of damage. So let me tell you one aspect of this. Earlier, banks were not ensuring fiduciary loss, which means that somebody has broken my trust and really taken money from my account. So now there is an insurance package available for such things. So they have actually built in the cost of hacking, cost of loss, cost of theft, etc. into an insurance. And the bank is indemnified on that basis. So these are things that we have to look at the use case, look at the occurrence, look at the loss, look at everything, and then design solutions. And that's the way practically it is done.
Does anyone have any more doubts? I think that's all. Thank you, sir, for the wonderful session and for clarifying all our doubts. It was very informative.
Thank you very much.
I would now like to call upon Meghna Sudeep, Secretary of IEEE RFID Council, Kerala Chapter, to give the vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, Alia. I hope you all have gained a lot of information regarding RFID technologies and its applications. Moving on to my responsibility, I extend a really hearty vote of thanks to our chief guest, Mr. T.S. Rangarajan. We won't be able to find any other speaker apt for this topic other than you, who is highly capable to deliver this. Thank you so much, sir, for accepting our invitation and being here. And from the entire RFID Kerala section family, we present you a small virtual memento. Thank you, sir, for being here. And I would also like to thank our chair, Dr. Bijoy Jose, and our entire team of RFID Kerala section for supporting and also conducting this event very smoothly. Thank you, team. And lastly, a very big thank you to all those who have joined today. Thank you for all your attention and presence. This means a lot to us, and we hope this support throughout our journey. And yes, we have a very special announcement. As there is an RFID Embedded Challenge 2021 coming this way. Last year we had same challenge like RFID Embedded Challenge 2020, which was open for all the engineering students of Kerala. And this year we are coming up with the second version of Embedded Challenge. And this year we have more opportunities and more prizes coming on all your way. So all I have to say is, guys, more information is coming, and all you have to be is prepared with the good abstract and report of the projects you have done, or if you have any other works, you can report it, and more details are coming your way. So I hope all of you will be taking part in the RFID Embedded Challenge too. So thank you so much, guys, for being here. Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Guys, we have attached a small feedback form. So all of you please fill it out before leaving. Thank you.